Yeah, well, there's been 3 or 4 headlines on DHS preparing for civil war, DHS preparing for civil unrest. Since he came out with the DHS insider source saying just as much. And
I think it was on MSNBC that way as well, but I'm not sure. But look, I don't want to take the guest up from our time. So
before the show, we were talking here with Jay Snip 4, and I saw an interesting video he made on YouTube about the Olympics and the austerity measures that are hitting the Olympics. We're going to bring you on with that, Mr. Jay Snip, and if you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself that we missed, and then get into the austerity measures of the Olympics, that would be great.
All right, make sure you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
All right.
And welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And folks, you're going to like this gentleman, so pay close attention.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys hitting me up to come on the show. And, like you said, my little brief bio was that 2005, 2006, some friends actually that my wife worked with at the time at her job. One guy in particular, I guess, was like, hey, you and your husband ought to check out some of this stuff on peak oil. And he would send her some things like that just to kind of start her off. And she'd bring them home and, hey, let's watch this. And I don't have time for that. I want to play video games and I want to do other stuff. I don't want to watch that garbage. That's my mindset at the time.
Sure.
So Corey, finally, all right, let's have a little, husband and wife night and let's watch something. And okay, fair enough. So sure enough, what does she want to play? She wants to watch one of these peak oil. As a matter of fact, I think the name of the documentary was actually Peak Oil, if I remember correctly. And I watched it and I was like, hey, this is pretty interesting. Kind of got my attention and I wanted to know more about that stuff. So I went into Al Gore. Next thing I know, we're watching Al Gore's Inconvenient Truth. It came out just at the right time for me to watch with her, and we went to the movies and saw it. We were like, man, old Al Gore, he's such a nice guy, and Bush stole the election from him. Man, he was so close to winning. God, I would have wished he would have won. We wouldn't have all these problems. That was my mindset back then. So, of course, I'm, thinking that one way, and next thing you know, I'm watching documentaries on YouTube, and actually Google Video was kind of big back then too. And I noticed on Google Video, as I'm trying to inform myself on all these documentaries that you just can't find on TV or anywhere, I'm seeing stuff on the right side and the bottom, most viewed, most monthly viewed, all-time record viewed stuff. And this is for every video in the world. And yet every single time the record-breaking videos are about 9/11, are about all kinds of conspiracy stuff, but I didn't care about that at the time. I want to know about peak oil and Al Gore and, what did this have something to do with the 2012 Mayan stuff? So I got heavily involved in researching that. And that actually is what made me realize this is just a cycle. It has nothing to do with Al Gore, has nothing to do with anything. And then the peak oil thing was a complete fraud. And we had the oil, we've always had the oil, but it was hushed up in the 70s. They had a fake oil scare so that people who have been brainwashed for so long that these Middle Eastern countries are terrorists, now we got to deal with these, quote, terrorists because they've got oil and we don't. We don't have enough, so we're going to have to deal with them. So rather than get the American people all pissed off, they had to make us all get a little taste of what it's like to run out of gas for a little while. And people in line, which I don't even think I was born at the time, to tell you the truth, but I was born in 77, but...
Oh, you're a young one.
Yeah, so these people are standing in line, everyone's flipping out, oh my God, so that when they said, listen, we have a solution, we got to go to the Middle East. Nobody squawked and said, you know what, that's a terrible idea. After dealing with what they dealt with in the gas lines and the shortages, man, people didn't care one bit. So I learned that was a fraud. We've always had the oil. We've got at least several hundred years supply of oil for the United States, including all forecasted growth back then in the 70s. So it's just a fraud. So that pissed me off, and I wanted to find out more. Then I got into researching Al Gore's whole thing, and then I realized that during this, last 10 years roughly, it was actually like around a 7 or 8 year period technically, that we had this, global warming, so to speak. And I noticed from data, it may even been from NASA, not to say that NASA is always truthful, but regarding things that happen on other planets and temperatures and stuff, that's pretty accurate. I don't think they're lying about that. And I found out that the same time period that planet Earth experienced global warming, every single planet in the entire solar system of ours also experienced not only a little heat index increase, but massive global warming. So, and I think either Jupiter or Saturn or maybe both of them got so hot that had we, pretended that we were living on there, they increased so much that we would have been killed because it was like a 30% spike or something. So that kind of did it for me for Al Gore. And I got pissed off again. So now I'm looking at peak oil. I got lied to there. Now I'm going over here to climate, which is we're supposed to be fixing things on Earth and not polluting things, right? And I look at Al Gore as this great role model guy that almost was the president. You know, it was almost like Jesus Christ had returned for a slight second in my mind. And then, oh my God, it's a fraud. Also, he's part of a company that would be a billionaire. He would go from a millionaire to a billionaire overnight should we have to deal with these carbon taxes, these carbon credits going live across the globe. Matter of fact, even live across America alone, it would be enough to make him extremely filthy rich. So then I realized there's his agenda, and the rest is kind of history. But, I mean, for the most part, I started watching 9/11 videos because they kept popping up in my face every time I would research something else. And I'm thinking, well, there's millions of people, according to Google Video, watching these videos, and they have 5 stars, most of them. You got to be kidding me. This is like conspiracy stuff. So I finally watched one. It was Loose Change, 2nd edition.
Oh, yeah.
I was shocked when I saw it. You know, I didn't know what to believe. I was left with my jaw kind of hanging open. I didn't want to believe it. I didn't kind of believe it at first, so I started watching some more stuff, looking at some of the scientific evidence, the residue that was taken from samples all over New York in the dust.
Yeah.
That had what they called these little red paint chips.
Yeah.
And when they put them under a microscope with a laser for laser analysis, it actually blew up in their face kind of thing. But the samples were so small it didn't hurt anybody. And that's basically thermite or thermate or some variation of it. And, again, that was it for me. I saw enough at that point. And that led me to figure out, well, why did 9/11 have to happen? Why did we have to go to the Middle East? Why did we have to go attack Iraq? What the hell did Iraq have to do with this? And they lied about weapons of mass destruction to get us into Iraq. They kind of said it had something to do with 9/11. We went there, then we went back to Afghanistan. We're chasing these guys that don't even exist. There's never really an enemy you can put your finger on because we're constantly chasing someone that doesn't exist. And you hear these stories, well, we got a few Al-Qaeda members here today and here, you know, a few next week and the week after. So we think that there's just something like we're gaining or something. And it's just a complete fraud. So I kept looking at that. Well, why did that have to happen? And I found this interview. I've actually have it on a DVD that I made. There's just a whole bunch of different clips of all kinds of stuff that I made myself. It's about 2 hours long. But this one clip, I saved it for the end of the DVD that I made. And it's about 20 or 30 minutes long, and it's nothing more than just a guy calling in on a radio show to explain who he was and what he had to say about 9/11. And I have not watched this DVD in probably 3 years since I made it. I'm just going off the top of my head, but I know it's fairly accurate. But he worked at a major financial institution that was inside one of the World Trade Centers, either one or two. And he found some major bad activity, fraud, etc. That was actually so bad it had worldwide implications. So he said, I need to go to my manager with this. This is incredible. So he goes to one of his managers. They tell him basically to just blow him off. Goes to another one, blows him off. He said, well, that's strange. This is so huge. I can't believe I'm being blown off. So he has a friend that's even higher in the management, decides to go straight to him. He tells them that you're right. We probably need to do something about this. Go and talk to, you know, the upper echelon. He gave him the names of the guys he needed to speak to, basically the executive level. So he goes and talks to them and tells them what he had found. It's big problems. Next thing you know, he's fired. He's let go. Have a nice day. So it's several months, and I don't know if he had found another job or he was still looking or whatever, but he gets a call back from one of these executives and says, listen, we were wrong to fire you, and we're sorry about that. We understand you had some information. Can you go over that again with us? And he basically, kind of briefly goes over it with them again. And, all right, well, listen, we're sorry about that. We'd like to hire you back and give you your position back, and we'll even give you a raise. And, okay, sure. So he says, well, we're going to have a meeting Monday at, 9:30 or something like that. And can you be there next Monday or whatever it was? So he says, yeah, sure, no problem. So he's on his way there, and the meeting is set for 9/11/2001. And I said 9:30, but I'm again, my memory might be off on the time. I'm just going to throw that out there. But they told him to be there to where he was there after the plane would hit, is the long story short. So he is late. He's stuck in traffic. He cannot get there. He's trying to make it on time. Doesn't make it on time. The first plane hits, and I swear to you, he said, where that plane hit, it was exactly spot on, dead on where his office was, where they were going to have this meeting. The impact zone of the plane was right there. And none of the executives that told him they would be there for this meeting because they wanted to hear what he had to say showed up that day. All of them are gone scot-free. None of them got hurt. None of them got killed because they weren't even there. So that was kind of a turning point for him to realize, oh, my God, they tried to set me up to kill me, to shut me up. They didn't even show up. They knew in advance, etc. And that was his story. So I heard that. It was just
okay, wait a second, Joe. Let me stop you for a second here, just to make sure I understand this correctly, because sometimes I'm a slow learner,
Sure.
and for the people that are listening, they might want a little recap here. Here's a guy who's working for who, or for what company, or what?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, what was
a major financial institution.
A major financial institution saw global irregularities, and okay, I got you. All right, I wasn't sure who, what industry he was working for.
Yeah, I don't remember the company. He does name it for sure. I remember him saying it, but again, I just hadn't listened to it in 3 years. I'm not even really going to cover that tonight.
Okay, that's fine.
I wanted to kind of let people know that's what lit the fire, and then after one fire's lit, it brought me to another one, lights another fire under my rear end, then so on. So that led me to the financial. Then I started realizing maybe 9/11 had something to do with the financial problem, because if this thing hit right where this plane hit right where his office was, and they tried to get him there on time so he would be killed and none of them would be, that absolutely tells me there's something there. So, long story short.
Wow.
If there is a long story short when I talk.
That's all right.
Is that this has everything to do with financial corruption being covered up, and there was also some investigation materials all the way back to the savings and loan crisis of the 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
WorldCom crisis, that scam, the Enron scandal.
Yep.
I think Tyco and some other ones. There were some major investigations. The big guys at the top still had not been nabbed, and all that investigative material, all of it was stored in building number 7, World Trade Center 7, which collapsed at 5:19 or 5:20 p.m. the same day, yet it was not hit by a plane, and it fell at the same speed, which they call free fall speed, meaning if you dropped a brick off the side of a building and there's nothing there but the air, it takes X amount of seconds to hit the ground. That's exactly how fast World Trade Center 7 fell. It cannot defy the laws of physics. I don't care what anybody says. So that was it for me. Now I understand the financial terrorists are the terrorists of all. It's not these guys in the Middle East. It's not these guys with rags on their head. It's not OPEC. It's not Saudi Arabia, even though all the hijackers were Saudi Arabian, by the way, which is interesting because we never even stepped foot in Saudi Arabia.
Well, 15 of the 19 were, yes.
15 of the 19. So,
right.
That's another thing. So, anyways, I am now full force. I force myself to study everything I can get my hands on. I would force myself not to be biased, and I made that decision long ago, and I don't care what it is. If it's completely against what I say, I'm still going to look at it. I'm still going to read it because I want to know both sides of every situation. And that kind of led me to where I'm at today.
And I'll tell you what, you make a great investigator because that's exactly how we approach things. We follow, regardless of what political bias there might be or what agenda, we follow things right to the
truth. Yeah,
that's right.
And you hit on a number of things when you were opening there, talking about peak oil. You talked about the oil, the reasons we went. Why did we go to Afghanistan and Iraq when the terrorists were from Saudi Arabia? And, what we've seen, and I'm sure you've come across this, is the central bank theme. All the countries that did not have a central bank in the year 2000, there were 7 of them: Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Sudan. Now there are only 3 countries left without central banks. And Libya was also one of them.
Well, let's talk about Libya for a second, because we kept hearing about these rebels. The rebels are going to fight Libya because he's a dictator. We got to help those people and all this garbage. So what happens, I swear, and I mentioned this in, of course, one of my videos when it happened, was 2 weeks after this alleged conflict between the rebels in Libya. And those listening right now, we're not talking about Syria, because you're hearing the same thing, rebels against Syria, rebels against Syria. Prior to that, it was just the rebels against Libya. So they had, in 2 weeks span from the time that they started this little internal rift, this war with Gaddafi and those in power at that time in Libya, the rebels had already secured and had set aside a central bank and a oil company on standby, ready to go, so that as soon as the rebels, should they win, would already have a central bank and a oil company ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone's asking, well, where did Libya's 80 tons or 90 tons of gold go? I can probably rest assure everybody that it went to those who gave the rebels the central bank and said, we're going to give you, how much gold do you guys have?
144 tons.
Okay, 144 tons. We're going to give you the exact amount in paper dollars for your new central bank. You just give us the gold, and we'll get you off on your way. We're going to give you all this power. You're going to be the new leader as long as you do what we tell you. That's the way the Western world and the Western world is led by the United States. And as many people who do not want to hear that and are cringing right now, well, the United States is not the leader of this terrorist type of stuff. Yes, it is.
Yep.
And so was the Roman Empire, but you couldn't dare tell anybody, any citizen who was enjoying the most prosperous, most highly advanced, technologically advanced, beautiful structures the world has ever seen 2,000 years ago, Roman Empire person, you would not be able to tell them, hey, your military and governments is overthrowing other governments, violently destroying places, taking their wealth, and expanding, and they still can't keep up with the amount they owe everybody, so they're just expanding and warring more, and it's just an inevitable battle. So I think it's safe to say your lifestyle is about to end. And any Roman person back then would be like, please, this is the Roman Empire. Have you not looked around and seen the Colosseum? That's what you would get. It's the exact answer you would get, and that is the same answer you get today. And people cringe when you tell them anything about the United States is not the world police. It is not the world good guy. It is actually the world terrorist organization that you've ever seen. I mean, I just watched a video on Alex Jones's InfoWars that had a lady who was a former Department of Homeland Security officer who had a major investigation going. She learned that 24 or 25 high-level red alert terrorist type of people were coming in over the border. She knew exactly when, and she went to her boss immediately and told him, what are we doing about this information? They're going to be here in 2 days.
Yeah, we saw that video as well. That video was great. I can't remember her name.
You have it up on your website, realistnews.net, on one of the threads here. That was incredible.
Whistleblower. I mean, she's a whistleblower and said that she went to the office where he told her to go because that intel office needs to know immediately. She goes there. Oh, they're closed. What do you mean they're closed? This is a DHS office. Oh, the boss gave everybody the day off.
Yeah, that was July 4th of 2004, I believe. And if you recall, you might not recall this, but we were doing Northeast Intelligence Network was doing a monitoring of terrorist chatter. And it was a kind of an interesting time back then where there were warnings of multiple warnings via DHS, and we had to watch in retrospect, Joe, to see that video and to know what we know now. I think we can say with some level of authority, we as the Northeast Intelligence Network, that we were lied to. But this woman here that you're referring to, holy cow! I mean, yeah, she became a whistleblower, and she had a SWAT team in her house. And
34, I think, people who landed in a Black Hawk helicopter in her yard.
Yeah.
Not the sheriff's deputies, not police department. We're talking covert operation. They had no search warrant, and her neighbor was filming it, who was 25 years old. He got scared to death. Next thing she knows, he's dead.
Right.
Out of nowhere. No reason.
Plus, they basically killed her father.
That too, yeah.
You know, by denying him
medical care.
Yeah, that's right. So, man, I'll tell you what. Okay.
Yeah, and you know, we're really covering all issues here of what the main theme is, and this is the New World Order, the international banking cabal's takeover of the world through federal banks, central banks that they're instituting across the world to implement a more consolidated currency, a one world financial order, if you will. That's why we're seeing the unrest and the world economic crash taking place currently. We see what's happening in Spain. They're having unrest in Spain. France is calling for austerity measures. Greece will be broke after its third bailout by August 20th. You talked about the manipulation of the $60 billion of gold in China, I think, also.
They had some company, and it may have been right out of Hong Kong, but they claimed we're going to sell all these investors gold, but they sell it the same way that the, quote unquote, expert, authority, economists would say is the right way to sell something and invest, which is through a piece of paper that says has an underlying asset of gold. So you own gold, and if you invest, $1 million, you got $1 million in your back pocket, and you want to invest it in gold, we're going to sell you this certificate that's just a stock, basically, a number of shares, that says you own X amount of gold coins, so to speak, or X amount of ounces of gold. Have a nice day, and when the price of gold goes up, you're making money. But what ultimately happened was they didn't have the gold that they claimed they had. All they were doing is essentially turning a printer on, printing out a certificate that says we have gold, and anybody who wants it, we'll just keep printing pieces of paper out that says we have more and more and more. So they end up taking $60 billion, with a B, billion dollars of Hong Kong, out of Hong Kong, Chinese people's money who thought they were investing in gold, real gold, that was being stored somewhere for them. In reality, they never bought an ounce of gold, and they pocketed whoever this entity was, which was not even named in the article, so I can't wait to see who it was. But they took their money and never even had gold. So what happens if it really was gold? If they really bought the gold, that means that would have been $60 billion worth of gold. That would have been tons and tons and tons and tons of needed gold to fulfill that order, which never took place because it was fraud. So that's just a fake artificial supply and demand situation. So when we look at prices today and we say, well, gold's, roughly $1,600 and silver's, hovering around 28, 29, 30 for a while now, then that's just the price because of supply and demand. When in reality, not even including that fraudulent story of $60 billion being stolen. Forget that. Just pretend that didn't even happen. And let's go to the rest of the world who invests in gold and silver. They invest in these futures contracts and other forms of ETFs such as GLD or SLV, which is, again, pieces of paper in which they claim we have all this gold and silver, and for every share you buy is actually an ounce of silver, for example, for the SLV. So all these people are investing in something that they think this entity went out and bought, and the reality is they never, ever bought it, or if they bought any, it is such a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what they should have due to the amount of shares they issued. It's just so incredibly off. It's not even close. It would make you, it'd make your jaw hit the ground if we could really sit down and see what they really have versus what they're supposed to have. And again, that's artificial. So it makes it seem like there's all this gold and all this silver, and anybody who wants some, come on, step right up. We got plenty of these pieces of paper that say you own gold. So.
Well, if you don't physically possess it, if you can't touch it, if you can't guard it with a rifle, you don't own it, basically, is what you're saying. And that's what we've been saying, too. Folks, I just want to remind everyone, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report today. This is a live broadcast on the 30th day of July, 2012. Our very special guest is Joe. He's got a website. Folks, bookmark this website, Realist News. That's realistnews.net. And an excellent video channel, JSNIP4, okay?
And while we're doing the announcement phase, I just would like to say special happy birthday to my wife, Laura, who turned 28 today.
You young people. Right. You young people. Well,
I had to say hello.
Well, didn't want to, but definitely, folks, bookmark realistnews.net and make that one of your daily stops, because this guy knows what he's talking about.
And JSNIP4 on the YouTube video, and this is really how I found out about Joe, and through watching his videos. I started watching his videos, bookmarked his channel, and kept updated with that, and a lot of the takes you have are very interesting, and you have a.
You're Exhibit A of the evolution that I think a lot of people have gone through.
Yeah, this is the new news. This is the new source of information.
Well, here it's three simple steps, and this is 3 simple steps that is accurate throughout all of history, throughout as long as the world has been around, and it's simple. The truth goes through 3 phases. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently opposed. And third, it becomes common knowledge as if everybody knows that. It's that simple. And that's where I am at and have been at for a while. But in the beginning, I ridiculed it. 9/11 nonsense. Get that crap out of my face. I'm busy looking at peak oil and other stuff. Right. That, of course, I didn't believe to begin with either, but that was my little stepping block. And then, of course, I start getting pissed off and upset at what I'm watching and viewing on these 9/11 videos, and I want to attack the people making the videos, and I feel like I want to punch them. you're a freaking American. How, who are you to say this? But it's just the messenger. Look at what they're showing me. So I was able to calm down, and it kept pounding on me to look at the stuff, and I kept looking at different ones. And I'll be damned if I had to face reality one day and swallow that hard pill, which was brutal. It took me an entire year. I don't know whether it was 07 to 08 or 08 to 09. I don't even remember. But it took me an entire year to where I finally accepted that 9/11 was not, at the very least, was not what was sold to me.
Right.
And that made everything else after that point basically a piece of cake to finally go through, analyze, and come out with a conclusion, one way or the other. And I've ran across a bunch of garbage. And speaking of garbage, you guys may have heard of some nonsense about these massive top-level executive corporate banker master arrest.
Oh, yeah. I really wanted to get into this with you because a lot of our listeners, I don't even think, even including my father, are not really familiar with this guy Drake on Blog Talk Radio. And since we came back to Blog Talk in May, a lot of our shows were usually up there, the #1 most popular show on Blog Talk. And then I noticed this Drake character was up at #1 when we weren't. And it's kind of been going back and forth. And this guy is a New Age all around. I mean, the New Age agenda, we're talking ETs. And I thought you made a brilliant, I think it was about a 40-minute video from your vehicle. I watched that thing 2 or 3 times on your explanation of this guy. And, yeah, they basically keep giving out dates that they're going to mass arrest all the bankers. And, sit back, relax, enjoy your 4th of July. Let us, with our intergalactic unicorn factory, take care of these global bankers. The mass arrest, they'll be on TV. And that's
everybody else just sit down. Don't do anything. They're going to handle it. And as he said in one of his little clips, he said, if the ETs have told us if they need our good guy military help, they'll let them know.
Yeah.
And I said, okay.
Well, I feel better now.
The superior, first of all, if there's any ET race, period, it's obviously superior to that of ours because they got here through massively superior technology than we possess. I mean, that would be obvious. Therefore, they, period, are superior to us. So the superior race is dealing with Drake. All right, you don't want to talk to anybody else, but we're going to talk to Drake and people who know Drake, nobody else. And we're going to let your military know whether we need them or not. How about you don't care what the military does because you're superior, and if you've got an agenda to fix planet Earth and fix these bad guy bankers and put them in a place in jail where they belong, you don't need to tell or say we might need your military, but if we might not. But if we do, we'll let them know. But we might.
Yeah.
Do I need the help of my dog to help me program a computer when I go to work today when I'm programming database applications? Should I bring my dog in? And, hey, I might need you, Fido, but I might not. So stand by because I may need some programming help on some of this Visual Basic stuff I do. So, I mean, come on. This is ridiculous.
Your YouTube video analysis of what really this Drake character does opened my thought process up to a whole new realm of possibilities. We're a fundamentally Christian-based radio show. We do a lot of Bible prophecy tied in with current events. And I was thinking as I was listening to your videos, if there ever was a group of people to come along and take out the New World Order, the New World banking financial system very easily and pose as the saviors, it reminded me of what I read in the Bible of the Great Deception and of those that will be deceived as the world is rid of corruption and given peace. And, I know this Drake character isn't the Antichrist and can't carry this out, but this is it seemed like an indicator of what to look for.
It's like a thought process that is exactly in line with what you just said. So it's almost like a stepping stone of where this could potentially go.
Yeah.
And
wow.
these people, you wonder why he's on the front page. I'll tell you why he's on the front page. This is, to me, is a no-brainer, because of me looking at this like I look at everything else. Lady Gaga, any video she puts out will be hundreds of millions of views in no time at all. But something extremely important, you could have the most important wide-awake video that the entire world urgently needs to see. It is full of truth. It is full of everything. It can fix the whole world's problems. And you'll find maybe, I don't know, 20, 30,000 people watch the video, maybe a million, let's be fair. Maybe 1 million people watch the video, but Lady Gaga, and that took 2 years to get 1 million people, by the way, and then Lady Gaga comes out, and a month's time she has 400 million views. Because it is entertainment, it is what the people want, it's what they hope for, that's as simple as that. So they are hoping, as I said in my video, they are smoking what I call hopium. Not opium, but hopium with an H in the front, because everybody loves hope and faith and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want to sit down and pray that it'll stop, or you want to sit down and hope it'll stop, or you want to sit down and let a fake ET, a.k.a. savior figure from the ET race of Andromedans or wherever the hell he says these guys are from, sit back and do stuff for you, I mean, man, that sounds good, because that means I can go back and watch TV, I can watch my favorite TV shows, I can play around on the internet.
Yeah.
I could keep lying, cheating, and stealing and living the lifestyle that I live. I don't have to live by the 10 Commandments or anything else. Hell, this is great. Let these guys take care of it. I'll let them take over. I don't mind. And so that's why people are drawn to them, because they offer hope, even though it is false hope. It is a false prophet. It is nonsense. And when I did my first video exposing it, and while I'm doing the video, I'm trying to tell myself in my head, don't act like you're attacking these people personally. Don't try not to make your video, Joe, while, like you're attacking them. Just be about the truth. But, of course, I'm getting very passionate about this. This is making me angry when I see these people taking advantage of a lot of people. So, of course, I get all these people that I've never, ever once had comment on my videos, never, ever once watched any of my videos, come flooding over to my videos and basically sticking up for Drake, and you're going to be sorry when the mass arrest happens. I hope you're ready to eat your words. Yeah. I said, listen, I can't wait for this to happen if it's going to happen. And do you know what? I won't even delete this video if it happens. I will edit the beginning of it and add a little thing that says my apology video, please see here, and I will create a brand new video that links to, so everybody knows I called these guys out and I was wrong, and I'm going to be the most apologetic person in the video that will come if this happens that you've ever seen, and make things right. But I can tell you from history, I won't be wrong, and you'll be coming back here saying, you know what, these dates have come and gone, and I think you are right. So I waited and waited and waited. Not one of these guys or girls came back and said, hey, O.J. Snip, man, you were right. So what I decided to do not that long ago was let me just find like the top 10 people who kept arguing with me about this. And let's go back to their comment, which is still sitting on my site here on my YouTube channel, and just say, hey, what happened with those mass arrests? Anything come of that? Wait for a response. And I didn't get a single response from any of these people. So I brought them to light. I brought them the truth to dispose of the evil lies, basically, that they've been believing in, hoping in. And I bring them a light, a torch, if you will, of truth. Here it is. Take it. Nah, no comment. No. Why? Because they don't feel good. What my information was to them, it did not make them feel good. And our whole society is based off of feel-good nonsense. If I don't feel good, I need to fake it, put a happy face on. If I'm not happy, if the bankers just destroyed my 401k, I still have to smile and pretend it was okay. It was just like a rain cloud. It was just this global body thing called the economy, and it has its own life force, and it just lost some of its life force when my 401k happened to be in it, and there's no one at fault but myself, because I had the opportunity to do something with it, and I trusted in the system, so it's my fault. But I've got news for people. It's not your fault, and if you think that way, you're a freaking bozo, and you need to wake up and realize somebody, and as a matter of fact, it's a group of people known as international bankers, they did this to you. Money, as my friend and co-friend, whatever YouTube guy, Greg Vegas 5909, I believe is his name, has said, money does not disappear. Just like energy doesn't. There's laws of energy and physics or whatever. Right. I forget what it's called, but thermodynamics or whatever it is. Energy does not go away. It just transforms, etc. So neither does your 401k's money or your personal money that was invested in something. It does not disappear. Somebody got it, and it was that somebody is the bankers at the top who got out at the top, got it when the price was the highest, took a massive amount out because they're the ones who have the most shares in their companies, and then everyone else gets the scraps when you figure out, oh, my God, I need to get out of this account immediately, sell these shares immediately. It's already too late, and it's already a bloodbath because it doesn't just go slowly down. It freaking collapses right in front of your face, and that money had to go somewhere. So everyone needs to keep that in mind when you lose it all.
Well, let's talk. If you feel comfortable with this,
Sure.
Let's talk who's behind this, okay? Because we can say that the bankers, the banksters, the globalists, Okay, but who do we know, or who do we suspect, or who do we allege?
Well, I think at the very, very, very top is going to be, as far as families are concerned, the Rothschild family. If you look at their family history involved in central banking,
all right,
even more so than the Rockefeller family, I think they are at the top. I think next in line would be the Rockefeller family in America. And from there down, I don't know how to really name names as far as specifics, but all you have to do is look at, well, what companies does the Rockefeller own? Well, he owns Chase, right? Chase Manhattan and all that. So J.P. Morgan Chase, and J.P. Morgan was an old school banker, so they're now J.P. Morgan Chase. And just recently, the Rockefellers have a new agreement, a new partnership with none other than the Rothschilds and some kind of financial entity that they just created. And if I had to guess, after the big collapse, that company is going to stand to be the most powerful, most profitable company probably on the face of the earth if these people pull off this agenda. And so far, for God knows how many years now, they've been pulling it off without a freaking, without even a little quip from anybody. It's almost as if this is just a movie script and we're all just playing along with the movie, and then we already know how it ends. But when I see things like Libya and Syria taking way longer than they're supposed to, I can see that it looks like they're postponing things. That's why the collapse hasn't happened yet. That's why the commodities market hasn't collapsed just yet. They're just pushing everything along. The gas prices, like Lindsey Williams talks about, they still haven't skyrocketed yet, but he even said it's because of Libya and Syria that's throwing them off. Libya's finally out of the way, but now Syria is in the way. And we keep having these UN Security Council meetings, and we need to take action. And every single time, and I freaking love it. China and Russia, we can see right through the Western world what you're trying to do. We are vetoing this UN action. They've done it like 5 times in a row now. And every time before a vote, there's always massacre in Syria, the most dead in Syria, women and children most dead in Syria. Every single time before a freaking UN vote, are you kidding me? There's just a new record-breaking amount of people dead, always right before the vote. This is incredible. So, anyways, this is all, like you said earlier. This is just, we got to get to Syria because we're going to instill another central bank, and the Muslim Brotherhood are that people that are willing to work with us, the Western world, to put our central bank in there and to put our oil company in there. And for all those people who loved when we went into Iraq, and hey, we were told our gas is going to come down. Hey, as long as our gas comes down, I'm kind of all right with that. Hey, as long as it helps pay for some of this bills we got over there and the war and the deficit, man, I'm all right with that.
Right.
Shouldn't have been all right with it anyways, but you said you were all right. The average person said that. And now I've got a question for the average person. How much of that oil revenue is coming over here? 0. None of it. None of it is coming here. It is doing nothing. And I'm reading even today, recently anyways, massive bomb attacks in Iraq. I thought we left Iraq. I thought we were done. I thought everything was good and we cleaned up and we rebuilt Iraq and it was beautiful. Yet every picture I see, the freaking place is in ruins.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. Now let me ask you this: why did we go into Iraq? I mean, not for the reason not for the stated reason of weapons of mass destruction, which I believe that they exist, and I believe that perhaps Syria might have them. Okay, now, but they're stamped from the U.S. or from France or from Germany.
But if you were Syria, would you, knowing the United States is foaming at the mouth to destroy you, would you even dare use those things?
Well, no, of course not.
No, and it's interesting to see the same kind of threats coming from Assad that we saw from Saddam Hussein
and Gaddafi.
Yes.
They tried that with him too.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Very
so how could it be? And matter of fact, I'll even go back a little further to, it was either was the first Gulf War, that was 1990, wasn't it?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So the first Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm, right? How did we get there? And I was in school. I was like in Matter of fact, I wasn't even in high school yet, for God's sakes. I didn't know. All I know is, man, my country's going in there to kick some butt. This guy's a dictator and he's killing all these people. This is great. I felt fantastic hearing that.
Yeah, that was the first war I watched on TV.
Yeah, broadcasts, all the bombs dropping. Yeah, we're getting that bad guy. And then I find out, well, how did it get approved? And they had a poll that asked, Americans, Saddam Hussein is claiming that Kuwait is slant drilling into his oil fields, and he's going to go in and attack them. He's on his way there now. Should we get involved? We need to, because Kuwait's our ally. And a poll came out, and it was a pretty big majority that said, nah, leave him alone. We don't want to get involved. Naturally, because it's none of our business. That's what the average American would say. So how do we convince the average American who just said no to say yes? Well, 2 weeks later, this little girl, who's approximately 14 years old at the time, is standing there. She's from Kuwait, and she's in front of a congressional hearing that's being broadcast across the world live. And they're asking her, what did you see, young lady, and what is your name? And they step in immediately. We do not want to tell you her name for fear of reprisal on her family and herself. Oh, okay, well, go ahead, Miss Anonymous Little Girl. Tell us what you saw over in Iraq and Kuwait. So she's looking down, reading a script. I mean, she's got the paper right in front of her. She's looking down. She starts crying. Says, I was in the Kuwaiti hospital, and the Iraqi troops came in, and they took the babies out of the incubators and put the babies on the floor and took the incubators out and left the babies on the floor to die, and starts crying some more.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Now her story was initially corroborated by Amnesty International, but go ahead and complete the tale.
Well, there's a PR firm. I can't remember the name of it at the top of my head. It was the same PR firm that got, I think, Clinton in power. That's coached her allegedly into saying that.
Yes.
And that came out 6 months later, but it didn't make any news. And of course, 6 months, sorry about your luck, is too late. So we were lied to then about this. But again, another poll came out 2 weeks later, and massively 80% go kick his butt. This is disgusting. Who would do that? Who would take innocent babies? They always use babies, women, children. It's always there. So whenever I'll tell anybody listening to the show right now, I don't care what you're watching on the news. I don't care what they're telling you just happened on the news. I don't even care what your eyes are viewing on the news. When you hear the words women and children, let that make a red light bulb go on in your head and a red flag next to it that says this is propaganda. Because it's always propaganda. That's the biggest tool they use, because that is the biggest way to get to the heart and feelings of a person, is to look at innocent women and children getting hurt. People will sign up to the military-industrial complex to go fight that war in a heartbeat when they see that happen. And that's exactly what happened in the first Gulf War. And then we had 9/11. Same thing happened. Massive influx of people wanting to go protect America. Another fraud, etc. So this all revolves. I mean, everything we've discussed so far for the last 45 minutes is all related to these central banks, these international bankers, and people think, well, they're going to destroy America is what you're telling me to make this thing happen. Yes, that's correct. Well, why would they do that? They live in America. They're Americans. Yeah, they live here, but it doesn't matter. When you're a billionaire, you've got houses all over the world, and you have a global agenda. This is just like they look at America like this is where we're renting for the time being. And if anything gets bad, we'll go rent somewhere else. We'll go to Europe, or we'll go to South America somewhere. It's just, it means nothing to them.
Yep.
So people have to understand that. Just because you and I think, well, I would never do that. I'm American. I'm patriotic. I wouldn't, treat my people or whatever, so to speak, that way. Therefore, they can't do that. Well, that's because, we're God-fearing people. We try to live the right way, the right and wrong way. We know the right and wrong way and how to live, and not to kill people, not to do bad things, as much as we can. Of course, really bad things for some of us. Some people are okay doing small bad things, maybe a little lying here and there or whatever. That's fine. But, it's hard for people to fathom that other individuals could do this.
Look, the normal person, I come to believe, and I like Steve Quayle is a good friend of ours, and in fact, Steve Quayle and Greg Evenson are going to be on tomorrow night from 9 to midnight Eastern Time, very special program. Folks, I might as well make that announcement now, 9 to midnight tomorrow night, Steve Quayle and Greg Evenson on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Definitely tune in for that. But Steve always says, he talks about the depravity and the evil nature of the people that we can't even comprehend the the level, how they think and how they rationalize this kind of stuff.
Well, see, we can believe that when they tell us Saddam Hussein did this and that, and Libya did this and that, and this guy Assad from Syria did this and that, and every one of those is women and children, women and children, women and children, weapons of mass destruction. We have no problem believing that those guys are despicable and evil human beings, and we'll gladly go get rid of them. But when it's someone in our own America, there's no way in hell. Because I voted for this guy to be president, or I voted for that. There's no way he did it. But the guy you voted for, whether it's the left or right, the Democrat or Republican, those two guys were put there as two chess pieces, if you will, and you only have a choice to vote for those two. But you think you did something because, well, I'm a Democrat and you're a Republican, and my guy won this time, watch what they do. And then they destroy the country worse. Well, now it's your turn. The Republican wins, and then they destroy the country worse, and the deficit keeps climbing.
Right.
The deficit climbs under both parties. The wars continue under both parties. The banker bailouts continue under both parties. And the bankers have not been arrested, have not even been detained. Haven't even been detained, which you don't even have to arrest someone to detain them and talk to them. They haven't even had that happen. But like I said the other day, this guy, if everyone's not familiar with MF Global, MF Global is like a brokerage house, a little clearing house for people who play the paper game. The paper investment game, namely commodities.
That's right.
And they had stolen $1.6 billion of client funds, and the CEO is named John Corzine. They're now bankrupt and gone, but prior to that, he was the head, believe it or not, of Goldman Sachs. He was the CEO, so he left there to go for new, bigger, and brighter future of a smaller company somehow, but ran that company and took the money from the customer accounts. These are called allocated accounts.
Segregated or allocated, that's right. Yes.
Allocated account. What an allocated account is it would be like you going, or any of us going to a bank and saying, I need a safety deposit box. And they hand you a key, and they tell you while they hand you that key, this is the only key to that safety deposit box. If you lose it, we're going to have to drill into the thing to get it open. So just so you know, we don't even have a copy. You got the only copy. And what you put in there is yours. It'll never be opened unless you step foot in here and open it. That is an allocated account.
Right.
So these people had money with MF Global in an allocated account. Yet, MF Global went in there, CEO, gave his people under him, the employees, the okay to take money out of them to pay off some debt they had, and $1.6 billion. It's still, we don't know where it all went. We know J.P. Morgan got 200-something million out of that deal, but they don't know exactly where all of it went just yet, and they're still investigating. This has been going on for 8 months, and he said in front of a congressional testimony, which he didn't even have to show up to, by the way, but he said, well, I was governor of New Jersey, and I was also a congressman at one point. Just to let anyone know out there, he was the freaking governor and a congressman. This is the kind of guy he is. Just going to throw that in there as a little bonus for everybody. But he says, I'm just going to come here because I was former politician myself, and I know how much you guys appreciate me answering your questions today. So they went on to ask him, where's the money, and where's this, and how much did you know? Did you okay it? Did you authorize it? His bottom line answer was no, I don't know. I don't have access to emails anymore, but I can assure you I had no knowledge of it, and I did not tell anyone to do that. And then his little secretary decided, well, here, congressional hearing, I'll go ahead and send you guys, a few weeks later, I'll go ahead and send you guys what he said in an email. And the email states specifically, absolutely, I'm okaying this. Go ahead and take the funds out of the client allocated accounts. So he has now lied to Congress, and they have absolute probable cause at this point to arrest him, detain him, forget detaining him, arrest him immediately. At that point, it was immediately, there was probable cause right away. And here we are 8 months later, and they haven't touched him. And in the official story, we're still investigating. So, I wonder if any other MF Global type scenarios had happened recently. And sure enough, there was another one, and it was a company called PFG Best. This guy, the CEO, the head honcho, like John Corzine, was nobody before he worked there. So he didn't work for J.P. Morgan. He didn't work for, Chase, whatever. He didn't work for Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, Morgan Stanley. He was never part of the Federal Reserve banker guys. He was nobody. But he had the same thought process as the club. And the club, for those who's wondering what that means, is the J.P. Morgan, the Goldman Sachs, those guys, the gang, the club. So this guy I can't think of his name, but his PFG Best company CEO, he was not part of the club. So they went after him and found out he stole 220 something, or around a little over $200 million of client funds. Now keep in mind, 1.6 billion from MF Global, or 200 and something million from this guy. Well, clearly that's a lot less than MF Global. However, they nabbed this guy so fast, it was within like 4 days of the story breaking. They nabbed him, arrested him, and charged him that fast. Done. See ya, have a nice day. MF Global, John Corzine, one of the club, one of the boys, hands off. Don't touch him.
Yeah. And we see he's still raising money for the Obama campaign 2012.
Corzine is, yeah.
Absolutely. That's his way of saying, hey, guys, don't forget about me. You know, I raised a bunch of money for you in 2008, and I'm going to raise a bunch of money for you now. So this back to the Roman Empire history here. The rule of law must be restored at all levels, and when it's especially at the top, because that's where all the problems are. If the rule of law is not restored in very recent, soon-to-be history, we are going to end without a shadow of a doubt, 100% probability, the same way the Roman Empire ended, which is going to be flat broke, destitute, first world country heading to third world country status, and that's a big one for people to swallow. I remember arguing with my sister so much about this, and I would send her stories and email. Look, this never happened in America before. Look at this. Look at this. And she just wouldn't. But now, yeah, but that's Venezuela, or that's such and such. What do you mean that place was like the 8th most prosperous country in the world at one time? What are you talking about? That's Venezuela, or that's not Venezuela. That's Chavez. Isn't Chavez Venezuela?
Venezuela, yes, Chavez.
Now the other one, the one that went bankrupt in
Argentina.
Argentina. Thank you.
Yeah.
I said, Andrew, my sister's named Andrew. Andrew, what are you talking about? So, again, American, a.k.a. Roman Empire mindset. This can't happen here. It won't happen here. And I want to cover a little bit of our deficit for those listening. This is extremely important. From the time our country was founded, America, the United States of America, every president who you've heard been assassinated was in the process of changing the monetary system and or removing the central bank and those who owned the central bank, which were private parties, by the way, who are in power now, that private central bank. And every time the president was killed by some crazy lunatic, every time. Having said that, in approximately 1970, 1971, it took all those years, approximately 200 years roughly, to accumulate $1 trillion of debt, our national debt. It took that long to accumulate $1 trillion. From there to the year 2000, when Bush took office, we had accumulated, I think, another $6 trillion total. So it took 30 years, 1970, 80, 90, 2000, 30 years to accumulate $6 trillion. So let's stop for a second here and recap. 200 years, $1 trillion. 30 years, $6 trillion. So you can see there's a little problem. So when he leaves office, we're at $9 trillion. So that's 8 years. We're up another $3 trillion. And when he leaves office, as he's leaving office and Obama's taking over, it goes up to 11 trillion, 11 point something. A short while later, it goes into the 12 something. A year later, it goes to the 14 something. And at one point, it was only 30 days later. I think it was from when they went from 11 trillion to 12 trillion, or maybe it was the 12 trillion to 14 trillion. It was 30 days later that they did that, just for prior doing it 30 days before. They took it from 12 trillion, and then 30 days later said, you know what, we need to do it again. Let's go to 14 trillion. And then they took that, and that's lasted us a year.
Right.
And here we are. They upped it again to another whatever point trillion, and it's now roughly 16 trillion that they've upped it to. And once again, we're going to be having to do that again. So 30 years ago to 2000, and from 2000 to now 2012, we are now at $16 trillion. Anybody who looked at that and nothing else, forget what you feel about your American country, what you feel about God bless America, or any other nonsense, take your emotions out of it and just look at the numbers. I think being a programmer and IT guy, my brain works that way to where I don't care about my emotions. I just got to focus on what the programming does. And no matter how bad this stupid error keeps popping up on my computer because of some programming error that I caused, and my emotions are getting a hold of me and I'm getting upset, I have to understand The computer doesn't care how JSNP4 feels right now. The computer does not care that I'm upset. It is going to tell me that there's an error because there's a problem with the code. It doesn't care. So I don't care, and the deficit of the United States of America, the $16 trillion, does not care what anybody listening to this show right now or the entire world or the entire population of the United States thinks or cares about. It is what it is. And what it is a mathematical certainty that it cannot and will not be paid off.
Yeah.
So if you know that it cannot be paid off ever and it will not be paid off, what should I do? Because clearly when more and more and more and more money is being printed, that causes a country's dollar value to go down. That's an example. You could look at any country during any time period of history and figure that out. So there's no need to argue about that with anybody. That's pretty obvious. But everyone says, well, this is America, though. You know, it's a strong dollar. Why? I haven't really seen any inflation, really. How is that so? Well, keep in mind, we have a central bank here, and we have central banks everywhere. And our dollar, when they say, well, how good's the dollar index today? Oh, it's at 78, it's at 80, it's at whatever. When they get that number, they get it by looking at a basket of currencies, which those basket of currencies are heavily weighed on by the euro. So you might as well forget the rest of the currencies and just say that we look at our currency versus the euro. So that makes the dollar index what it is. So if we have an $80 index, in other words, the dollar is worth 80 cents out of a dollar, so to speak, compared to the euro. But the problem is the Europeans are printing money out of control too, and so are we. So what we have ultimately is two people comparing each other who are highly in debt, going more and more and more into debt, out of control, faster and faster, and looking at each other and saying, well, you guys are a little more in debt right this moment than we are. Oh, good, our dollar index is up 80 today. And then another week, bad news comes out, and then it starts dropping again. Now our dollar index is 78. Uh-oh, maybe the euro's stronger. It's not stronger. We have two sinking ships. That's all this is. We have two sinking ships, and we're on the top deck of the ship looking at each other, the European ship and the United States ship. And we're looking at each other while the ships are sinking, and we're telling each other ours is more stronger today. No, ours is. And one ship kind of patches it up a little bit, and then the other ship appears to be rising, when in fact it's not. The other ship's sinking worse. So what that means is that fiat currencies are dying. The central bankers must retain control of their whole oligarchy / monopoly, and they realize that if they destroy everything and then offer the same exact system we had before with the little cherry on top, no one's going to buy it. It has got to be different. So what will they do? And from history, what I've gathered is that they're going to go back to a gold or precious metals backed currency. Whatever comes of this, whether it's an new American dollar or whether it's a worldwide currency, and from the gist of things that I gather, they definitely want to go with the worldwide currency for sure, so they can have their new world order, new world currency, and they'll be able to tell every country in the world, all your fiat paper currency failed. It was backed by nothing, and we learned our lesson, and let's not blame anybody here. Let's move on, of course. We don't want to point the finger at anybody because, of course, it'll be pointing right back at them. But let's move on, and we've got a great solution. Our currency, which is brought to you by the Central Bank of the World, also known as the World Bank, which, by the way, is already in existence, the World Bank and the IMF, it's already there. It's been there. That'll be the issuing place of the currency, and it'll be backed by precious metals. So the whole world's going to say, well, that sounds good because there's value there, and we can't have this problem with currencies dying anymore because it's pegged to the gold standard.
Mr. J. Snips, we're up against the top of the hour break. We'll be right back after a few minutes here. When we come back, I would like to get your thoughts on what is the collateral for the debt we have and getting into the rest of the future of the dollar and the world currency. We'll be right back after these messages.
What a fantastic guest, folks. And check them out on realnews.net. That's realistnews.net. That's realistnews.net. Folks, are going to be right back after these. Stay tuned.
Also, JSNIP4 is the YouTube channel.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Aileta Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com, or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Doug Hagmann. One guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann, my co-host Joe Hagmann, and my son, of course. Can't deny that. We share the same surname. And, of course, you're listening to a live broadcast Monday, July 30th, 2012 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for you night owls. I'm going to be visiting with George Norrie for a few minutes tonight at the top of the first hour, talking about the DHS situation with preparing for civil uprising. Also tomorrow, between the special program, Hagmann and Hagmann Report, 3-hour program, starting from 9 p.m. Eastern Time through midnight. We're going to have Steve Coyle and Greg Evenson on. It's a program not to be missed for sure. Firearms, freedom, and the Second Amendment. What you folks need to know, what the agenda is behind that, and the globalist takeover of that. Joe, welcome back. And we want to welcome our very special guest, Joe from realistnews.net. That's realistnews.net, now one of our favorite sources, and also his video channel, JSNIP4. JSNIP4. Joe, welcome back.
All right. So what was Joe? You said you wanted to cover some things. What did you want to start with?
Well, we were talking about the size of the debt and how much it has increased, and one of the things we cover is the collateral for the debt. Many people say it is our land and resources. Many people say it is us is the resource for the collateral, and then there's another train of thought that it will just be wiped away to install the new one world currency. I didn't know what your insight was on the collateral of the debt.
Yes, I actually, and I was while you were saying that, I was trying to search real quick on the YouTube and Google for the video that I did. The UCC code, whatever, I forget what that stands for, but there was a document that I found. I've read it on a website somewhere and didn't end up downloading it. It was basically the agreement for that debt collateral. Mentioned the Federal Reserve Bank, and I think it named Bank of America as like the trustee. And basically named every man, woman, child, laborer of every man, woman, and child in the United States of America, both far and wide, shore to shore, basically. It spelled it all out. and it was the exact amount of that latest 16 trillion, or maybe it was one that was 14 trillion actually, and I found it, and I downloaded it, and it basically is that document that shows when they go and get this debt, there has to be collateral, and that collateral, which summed it up for me when I found it, without a shadow of a doubt, they write down you, me, every human being that is an American citizen, period. Now, that may sound scary to most people, and, what does that mean? I'm gonna be a slave to someone, whatever.
How does that work?
But the bottom line is, as far as I'm concerned, like any document, if you're bankrupt, you're bankrupt. So if you write off all the debt, which is the only choice. Like I said, it's a mathematical certainty that the debt cannot be paid off. So what is the only choice? And here's the choices. You either, if we have $16 trillion, and let's assume that sometime in the very near future they're going to devalue the dollar. And by the way, I say assume, but it's going to happen. The question is there's two forms or formats that they can do this. The question is, which one will it be? The bottom line is it won't matter, but here's the two choices. To devalue the dollar, actually the dollar itself, and say it's worth, what we call $1 today, it's now worth 50 cents. Whatever it's worth today, we're cutting it 50%. Therefore, the national debt that we owe every country, well, dumb enough to sit on it, by the way, but any country holding our $16 trillion worth of debt, anybody for that matter, countries, people, investors, whoever, all of you combined equal $16 trillion U.S. debt. You just got cut in half. Sorry about that. That's one way of doing it. And everything that affects worldwide. So anything we imported is now 50% more expensive. Matter of fact, technically it would be 100% more expensive by a 50% cut. But nonetheless, it's going up. So the other choice is to say, well, we're not actually devaluing the dollar, but anybody who's holding our bonds, which again, $16 trillion of these treasury bonds, anyone who's holding the bonds, our bondholders, we're cutting that in half. And I'm assuming they're going to cut it in half. They can cut it to any level they want. And for anybody who says, well, man, 50%, that sucks, and you're right, think about that for a second. If we cut the national debt, again, by dollar devaluation or the debt itself, the bonds, either way, same result, if we cut it in half, that takes $16 trillion and turns it into $8 trillion. Do you remember when I was saying a minute ago when Obama took office, it was $9 trillion?
Yeah.
Basically, so we're back there again. What the hell is that going to do? It's not going to do anything. It's going to climb right back up in a hurry. And even if we had some kind of massive austerity measures in place in America that people were just being destroyed, it still can't take care of $8 trillion. It's not going to happen because as austerity measures kick in, they require people being fired, let go, less pay. That equals less taxes, less everything. It's just a losing battle. It's going down the drain. It's a black hole to nowhere.
Yeah.
So it cannot happen. So the bottom line is 50% is not enough.
So Joe, tell us what's going to happen. I mean,
we got a question in the chat, and you kind of touched on this with your last response here. But what is the national debt going to do as far as inflation and hyperinflation? What are we looking at as a timeline for the near future of our currency and our purchasing power?
Well, the only response I can give is from Lindsey Williams, and I've been following Lindsey Williams since 2000 and basically January of 2007 when I first found him.
Right, we have to.
Right. So I've people tell me lately, well, he doesn't appear to be on right now, and he's already said because of Syria and Libya, they're extending their timeline. So what he said is an absolute fact. We are, and I'll say the same thing right now because I went and checked it out myself. In 2002, November, I think the actual date was November 24th, 2002, Ben Bernanke is asked, before he was ever even head of the Federal Reserve, he was asked, what would you do if you were in charge of the Federal Reserve, you were the head guy, and we were facing another deflationary or whatever depressionary type of situation in America? What would you do to fix it or to help lessen it? And he rattled off, and by the way, he claims he's like a scholar of the depressionary era. So he's claims he's like the guru. He said 5 different things, which of course I can't remember off the top of my head right this second. But the bottom line, again, just go type in Ben Bernanke speech, November 2002. I guarantee it'll come up, and it will actually come up from the Federal Reserve website, if I recall, because that's how I found it. And I read the whole thing, and it names 5 things he would do if he was in charge. And I'm telling you right now, he has already done 4 of the 5 things. It's already done. It's not like he's going to, or he might. He's already done them. There's 1 left. And the 5th and final thing he said he would do in 2002, which is exactly what I just talked about, he will devalue the dollar. And if you devalue the dollar, it doesn't see, back to the Depression for a second, we actually devalued the dollar then.
Yes.
They had a forced confiscation of gold, except they paid you for it, what the market price was, which was $20. After they were comfortable that they took everything they could from the people, they then turned around, made it legal, of course, to own gold, and then for the average person to own gold,
right?
And then said a year later it's now worth $35. That's almost 50%. So that was a de facto 50% devaluation. So I looked at prices back then. There's, you can find the information on the internet. What was the price of bread? What was the price of a gallon of gas? What was the price of a house? All these things. And they didn't change. 7 cents here, 9 cents there, same thing. So I was like, man, that's interesting. But then I realized, well, of course it's not going to change because it's still in our own dollar. We can devalue it as much as we want. If we're making the bread and we're making the oil and we're making anything, it's still our currency and we're making it. It's not like we have to import it, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect us. As a matter of fact, it appears to be a benefit. So how about now? Are we manufacturing that stuff today? Are we making our own oil today? Are we importing a massive amount of stuff? Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, I'll challenge anybody to go to any store and tell me where everything that you buy, especially Walmart, because people, oh, man, Walmart's cheap. I love shopping at Walmart. Matter of fact, go to your favorite store. Go to any store. I don't care. And look at everything on the shelf. Go down a random shelf, pick up several random items, flip it over, flip the box to the side, see where it's manufactured. It's going to say China or somewhere else, most likely China, though. That means if we devalue, again, let's just go with 50%. If we devalue the dollar 50%, immediately everything doubles in price when you go to the store.
Yeah.
Automatically. It's automatic. Why? Because we do not produce those things anymore. Anything that is produced in America, you won't see it being affected. Therefore, it would be okay. But again, we're not like we were back then. We were completely manufacturing for the most part, or at least a massive, maybe 80-something% manufacturing back then. Everything was American this, American that, created. Now, you can't get hardly anything American. And if you do, it's just one little thing here or there. Of course, you're going to pay more money for it now because we can't compete with China and slave labor. You can't compete with someone that gets to hire 7, 8, 9, 10 people for the cost of a minimum wage American.
Yeah.
You can't compete.
Right.
So if you can't compete, that means every major corporation is going to look at that and say, hey, that's a good idea. So if that's true, then there should be corporations fleeing and putting stuff in China and India. So are there major corporations moving stuff and opening shop in China and India? That's the question to the audience. And I think if anyone's paying attention, they already know the answer to that. From GE to GM to Ford, solar panel companies that were closed down, all of it. Corporate powers follow cheap labor. Yep. Period. History. Again, history. That's all it goes by. So the guys at the top, the guys at these big corporations, they're not going to suffer. They're going to be fine.
Okay, now let me interrupt here and ask a question. I'm not consider myself an average person of average intelligence, and that's it. Okay. You're looking at this. Was this orchestrated? I mean, is this part of a larger plan, or did things just happen this way?
In my opinion, I do not think it was planned that, from the Great Depression time frame, back when we were manufacturing, that they would just decide, you know what, in the future we're going to start, slowly taking manufacturing and stuff out of America and shipping it overseas. What happens is, because the globe is, the world's not equal, and there's slave labor in India and China, and they are massively overpopulated, and most of them don't have a job. Most of them are beggars and that kind of thing. Sad to say, but that's just their life. It's just the way it is for most people in India and China. So these people all of a sudden get this opportunity because some bright intelligence guy over here decided, hey, why, man, if I ship my production over there, I don't have to have workman's comp. I don't have to have all these overhead fees. I can get by with a small staff. We'll just take orders, basically our own orders, of course, from our manufacturing plant, which is overseas. We can hire 10 times the amount of people. It's a no-brainer, and in reality, it's a no-brainer. As a matter of fact, which that sucks, and it sounds like almost like I'm agreeing, like, yeah, let's go do that, and I'm not. Hang on one second. I had to cough, but I had to push the mute.
we appreciate that. We
don't want to blow your ears out. So let's just look at that what I just said for a second. You know, it is actually a fantastic business model for any corporation to say, how can I hire the best production for the cheapest price? I mean, that's obvious. Sure. Right? You go shopping, you want the best food for the cheapest price. That's why everyone freaking goes to Walmart. So back when the 2008, as Lindsey Williams correctly predicted, by the way, those listening, that the price of gas would go to $150 a barrel soon, and it did. He nailed it. The price was over $4 a gallon in America at most places. They had truckers protesting and this and that, and, you know, I can't believe this. So then all of a sudden this new technology, well, wasn't really new, but, you know, the ethanol, and we're going to make biodiesel, and all these little kind of small places popped up all over the place, and we're going to create biodiesel, and we can sell it for $3.50 a gallon. That's better than $4.25 and $4.50 that you guys are paying. And then all these truckers, I'm not buying it from these damn companies anymore. I'm going with this biodiesel. And then they dropped the price, as Lindsey Williams again correctly predicted, that while it was $150, he says it'll be shortly here going down to $50 a barrel. They thought he was out of his damn mind, and it did by December. And then I read an article in December, Saudi Arabia to cut 2 million barrels a day in production to help boost prices. A week later, prices fall down in the 40s. That just goes to show you the price is not set by OPEC. It's not set by Saudi Arabia. It is set by Wall Street. That's how they change the price. But the point of this is that as soon as that $50 a barrel came back and then gas prices plummeted, all those truck drivers basically told the biodiesel people, guys, sorry about your luck. I appreciate you trying to help, but screw you. I can get diesel now cheaper than I can get it from you biodiesel guys, so go pound sand. Have a nice day. See you later. And they left those guys hanging and went right back to the cheap gasoline who screwed them in the first place, or the diesel that screwed them in the first place because it was down to $50 a barrel. Now, hey, I'm going back. So it doesn't matter how you feel or this is right or this is wrong. You are going to go where it hurts your pocketbook least. And that is right now for the corporate elite, the business structure in America and other places, to go to China and India because they have slave labor and they do not have the laws, aren't planning on creating laws, anything like we have as far as minimum wage that's even close to what we have. So what happens is, the next question in my mind would be, well, what happens to all these people in America that are going to be out of a job when this really kicks into gear? And then we have the devaluation and things start to get...
Wait, before you get into that, let me ask you this. Do you believe that the devaluation is going to be a slow, incremental process, or do you think it's going to be overnight?
I think it'll be an announcement. One thing that I don't know is will they come out and say, well, we're devaluing it 20%, and then a month later we're devaluing another 10%, and then a month later another 10%, until ultimately it gets to 50 or 40 or whatever percent they decide they're happy with. It could go that way, or it'll be instant. It'll be instantaneously done. That it has to. They can't just slowly let this happen, because what we're doing now by comparing the euro to the U.S. dollar, that's what the world looks at as what's the U.S. dollar worth today. Right. That has zero to do with devaluation. So, as Lindsey Williams said, the euro should go first, and you'll have, once you see that euro destroyed, you will have a mere matter of weeks to get your house in order, financially speaking, and to get out of every single piece of paper asset you possibly can, if you haven't already, and you should already be out of it by now. I'm telling you that right now, and you should be putting most of your money, if not all of it. I am 100%, by the way, invested in physical silver. And as we spoke before, when we use the word physical, I can go to my house right now and touch it. Not a bank, not a safety deposit box.
That's right.
I can go to my house or a secure location that I know about that's mine and go get it. That's what physical possession means. these people tell me, yeah, but I got a 401k and I don't have a choice. The only thing I feel comfortable in is silver, and the only thing they offer me is the SLV and the GLD. Well, for God's sakes, if that's all they've got, you may have to do it, but that's going to collapse one day too.
Yeah.
And you know, people don't look at the prospectus of what they invest in. And if you look at the SLV and the GLD prospectus, it tells you right, bold in your face, that any reason we feel necessary, we can destroy the whole thing and pay out whatever the current market price is in paper money or a check to all of our shareholders.
Yep.
Which means you are not going to get gold and silver. You will never be able to know if they ever had the gold and silver. All you will be able to know is that the price got destroyed today, and here, you know, let's say silver got smashed to $10 or something an ounce, and then they pulled that trigger. We're closing down SLV and GLD. That's their scapegoat to never have to show that they had silver or gold. We're selling it off today at $10 an ounce, and we have, you know, hundreds of millions of shares. Therefore, we're coming up with, you know, let's say a couple $1 billion to pay everybody off. But for all these years, they've been collecting money from people for shares when it was $40, $50, $30, $20. I think they're going to destroy it one time to get out of that vehicle. That's what I think. And I don't know, doesn't mean it's going to happen. I just think it will. And I would fully expect that we see one more major devastating price drop in gold and silver so that they can pull some of this crap off. JP Morgan can then get out of its short position finally, and then let it rise to wherever it's going to go.
Well, that represents a good buying opportunity then.
Oh, massive.
And what we've been doing is promoting for people to, if they have the extra money, to invest in food storage, and if they have money beyond that, to invest in the silvers market and possibly gold. If you know, because a lot of our listeners are you know, live like we do, kind of paycheck to paycheck. We don't have you know, a lot of extra money lying around, and if things go bad, society collapses, where supply and demand, the stores don't get stocked with food, you know, you're going to want to have food on hand. And this leads into the next question. If the economy does collapse, say the dollar collapses, when it collapses, you know, day one, what are we looking at here? You know, bank runs, no access to money, food's going out of the shelves. And then what? I mean,
well, I think bank runs are already happening. When we heard about all these glitches and stuff in Europe, and computer glitch and banking glitch, all this garbage, it's all I'm seeing is in my head, and what I'm looking at is bank runs happening. The problem is they don't want the whole world to know a bank run's taking place. So I don't think it's going to actually be advertised as, oh my God, bank runs, because that means the faith in the system is being destroyed. And
you're exactly right.
The faith in the system being destroyed.
Well, you know, Steve, I know you know Steve Quayle, and his financial source told him, look, if you heard about $60 billion worth of glitches, those were bank runs, and it wasn't $60 billion. It was more like you know, $150 billion. And anything you hear, double it or triple it, because that's what's really going on.
I would agree.
You know, I mean, so you're absolutely right. But all right, so now, you know, at some point in the future, perhaps in the near future, bang, you know, we're in the soup now. Now what happens? I guess Joe is kind of going there. Will walk us through what you see going on, you know, beyond the bank runs, when we wake up one morning and all of a sudden we realize, hey,
the average person, who isn't even listening to us right now, who had their 401k, who had their retirement, etc., stolen, which I'm calling it stolen because it is stolen. Again, money doesn't disappear. It gets transferred, and we are witnessing, and by the time it's done, it'll be the largest transfer of wealth in the history of the world has ever seen. But those people will finally be shaken awake to, holy crap, what just happened to me? What just happened to my retirement? I'm not listening to the news anymore because you're full of crap. I want to know what happened to my retirement. And they're going to go on the internet, and they're going to find all kinds of alternative news just been sitting there for years waiting for someone to come by and read it like them. They're going to realize who's at fault, who caused this. They're going to be absolutely furious. But they're not going to be on the level of, well, I knew it was the Rockefellers, and I knew it was the central banks, and I knew it was the Rothschilds. And they're going to be on the level of which Democrat or which Republican did this? Which politician did this to me? Who destroyed Glass-Steagall Act? Oh, my God, that was Clinton, and it was this congressman, and it was this senator, and it was this whole group of them. And they're going to want to go kill those people. They're going to want to make their lives miserable. That's what history tells me. Okay. I'm using nothing but history to just tell you what I think is going to happen. So those people will be on the streets. You and I will be here doing another radio show, talking about those people on the streets. Talking about that one time JSNIP4 called into your radio show and talked about these things, and here it is unfolding. And that, like you said, you're going to talk later about Department of Homeland Security gearing up for civil unrest. That is exactly why they are gearing up for civil unrest. Why did they buy 450 million rounds of ammunition? They're not law enforcement. They're not the military. What's the Department of Homeland Security doing with 450 rounds of ammunition? I also looked on, there was stuff being posted on some of the job posting sites that the governments use to take bids.
Yep.
Legitimate sites. And they showed needed.
Internment camp.
And bulletproof checkpoints.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Bulletproof checkpoints needed.
If I'm not sure if you saw the first story that broke that the Department of Homeland Security was preparing for civil war in the United States was actually my father had a DHS, his DHS insider gave the story to him, and when it broke, he was on Alex Jones,
it was back in May 4th.
True News, and we got that most hate mail and ridicule, and you guys.
That was on May 4th. I believe the story broke on HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's our.
What was it? Tell me their story.
Well, basically, I've got a source within the Department of Homeland Security, pretty high up. In fact, pretty high up, very high up. And this source told me, his code name is Rosebud. Okay, now if people really knew the story behind that name, it's not a cloak and dagger thing. It's actually pretty funny. But that said, our source told me that look, this administration in particular is working with is working to foment a social chaos, social unrest.
From the collapse of the U.S. dollar,
right.
The hyperinflation that will follow.
I mean, there's like three different angles that is taking place right now. According to my source, Obama is not planning on going anywhere in November. Obama is planning on being president in November, December, January, February, and so on. Now, that may or may not be true, but at least the DHS source is saying that's their mindset. That's what they're thinking. Yeah. Okay. Now and again, I'm not sure if there's any control over that or not, nor is my source.
And now we've seen it come out on the Alserman report. We saw it come out just today again on yesterday on Russia Today. A story came out, the same titles. It's just repeating.
Yeah, and I think if you go on HomelandSecurityUS.com under popular reads, I believe that there's a link to that article right there.
It really is simple. I mean, if you look at, if you were in charge, right? You're one of the elite. You have your plan. You know the plan. You know the timeline. You know what you're going to do. You know when you're going to try to get it done. You know the whole thing. It's a playbook.
Right.
You also know the people are not going to like when you get to this little particular point in your timeline. You know there's going to be major problems with the people. So would you, as knowing this, being one of the club members, say, you know what, let's just cross that bridge when we get there? Or would you say, we need to get some executive orders passed urgently. Let's have some major breaking news over here, and then while that breaking news is happening, let's go ahead and pass a couple executive orders when no one's looking. Let's have this great thing, the Great Health Care Act of 2010 or 11 or whatever, and we're going to give it this prestigious name so that every American thinks they're going to get taken care of, and we're going to fix the flaws with health care. And inside that health care bill, we're going to destroy the Bill of Rights even further and set up things so that we can really have control under certain circumstances. And we'll leave it so vague that even the greatest, most powerful lawyer on the face of the earth is going to scratch his head and say, well, how did what does this exactly mean? And then when you tell him what it means, later on, when you change what it means, you could easily say, well, that's not what it ever meant because it's so vague, anyone can interpret it however the hell they want.
That's right.
So look at all these executive orders. Look at the ones he's passed just this year.
Oh, yeah. They're fighting, and you can connect the dots. You can actually reconstruct the playbook or construct the playbook from merely from the executive orders.
Reverse engineering. That's all we're doing.
Yeah.
And what we've reverse engineered right now, while nothing's really gone bad, technically yet on the stage here, I mean, you could put those pieces together and say, man, these guys are seriously preparing for something. And the debate comes in when, well, define the word something when you use it in that context. And that's debatable. But what's not debatable is what they have passed as executive orders and what language and things are in there that gives them the power and right to do certain things that would leave you scratching your head saying, holy crap.
That's right.
What is that in a health care bill for? Or what is that in a freaking executive order out of nowhere that they pass in the middle of the night?
Yeah. No, it's very clear as the writing on the wall, so to speak. And I think you're right on the money. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Joe. He has a website called realistnews.net. That's realistnews.net. I'd recommend everyone watch his videos. I'm going to tell you.
JSnip4 on YouTube, and there are many videos on different topics that are all very interesting. And that's one of the reasons that, you caught my attention. And I see a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of people trying to explain things on YouTube videos, but you were very articulate. Not only that, you had a good sense of humor, and you got the information out, accurately, which a lot of people fail to do when making videos.
You're probably like us, so you're probably the life of your family reunions and parties, aren't you?
Yeah, every time friends and stuff want to get together and do stuff, like especially before I was married and had kids, when we used to hang out a lot, man, call Joe. Joe's got to come. Joe's got to come. I kind of was, but I'm just a normal. I look at myself as just a normal guy.
That's
I don't
right.
think of myself as some kind of high horse sitting guy or some kind of ego. I'm the smart guy. Listen to what I got to say, and if you don't agree, you're an idiot. No. But I've spent so much freaking time researching this stuff. I mean, I've got a lot of time when I'm not doing little programming stuff and IT stuff. Stuff's not breaking. I'm sitting back here, with stuff that I'm thinking, well, what can I do right now? Man, I'm researching stuff. I'm keeping up with what's going on in the world and making, preparations. And like you mentioned earlier, you said you recommend food and then silver, and it sounded like you meant it in that order, and I would agree that people need to get a food storage first, because you never know what bad thing could happen. Even Mother Nature, can throw at you, and then get your silver supply. But you got to get some silver, and I'm telling you now, again, I think they're going to push on the market one last time, but I could be wrong. They may have been trying this whole time, and they're out of their luck. And what happens if some major thing happens to where the manipulation of the markets are exposed and silver just absolutely explodes here shortly? That could happen too, and then, oh crap, these guys lost some power, lost something out of their timeline, and now they're going to have to scramble and fix it. I really think that there's going to be some of those situations that they unexpect, are not prepared for, did not prepare for, and are sitting there saying, oh my God, what do we do? And I think silver exploding, gold exploding, that kind of thing is going to be one of them, because this fraud of paper market manipulation, the $60 billion that was stolen from these Chinese people are realizing, man, I just lost everything, and I can't even get it back. There's no insurance. There's no nothing. I should have got freaking physical silver and bought a safe or physical gold. And then there's going to be more people thinking that, and then more people. And then there's going to be a point where people realize it's almost too late. There's delays now, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'll tell you what, I think right now, well, let me ask you, knowing what you know and you've studied everything, we've got this, I really hesitate to even call him a president, but the resident in the Oval Office here. How do you see this election going this year? Well, not that it matters.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll gladly answer that. And as you said, first answer, as if it matters. It doesn't. And I'll start by saying this. When you look at a train has a conductor. But the train is going down a set of tracks that are already predetermined.
Right.
But the conductor is just sitting in there. So every 4 years we have this thing called an election, and a new president comes in, and possibly sometimes the same guy comes back to the train, 8-year total time. But the train is still going down the same tracks that it was already predetermined to go down.
Right.
And if that's off the edge of a cliff, it's going off an edge of a cliff. It doesn't matter if Obama, the Democrat's in there. It doesn't matter if Romney, the Republican. It doesn't matter unless, in my opinion, a guy like Ron Paul gets in there. And I do not think, even with Bix Weir and some of this good guy stuff, I do not see Ron Paul getting elected. If he somehow gets through there and they just throws their plan off again, oh, my God, we can't allow this. Ron Paul's going to change our plan. The whole New World Order is going down the tubes. Oh, my God, we got to do something. There's no way they'll let him take office. They'll have to do something. They'll cause another 9/11. They'll do something to where he can't get in place. Now, having said that, what do I think of this current election with basically against Romney versus Obama? Lindsey Williams brought up a good point, and it's so true. There has never, ever, 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 ever been a time when the United States was in a war or a conflict that the standing president at that time was not reelected, because the whole mindset of the population is this guy's been in there for several years. He's got the intelligence coming to him every day. He's got the war plan. He's got everything going on. Why would you replace the guy? It's like replacing a quarterback as he's throwing the ball. You can't do that, man. You crazy? Right? That's the mindset. So, in my opinion, that could happen, and it's very likely to happen, but where's the conflict that we have to have for him to stay in office? And again, Syria's looking pretty good, but that's not a conflict. That's just that's nothing. That's like another little Libya, as far as they're concerned. We need the war. We need the war. And I'm talking Iran gets attacked. And we help Israel do it. We allow Israel to do it. We back up Israel. It's a joint Israel-U.S. something. The Olympics, this whole thing, the conspiracy floating around the internet right now about the Olympics potentially being blown up by, again, these same people. That would be the perfect event if they pulled it off. Now, all of a sudden, you got this war. We're going to blame it on Iran. And just days ago, the head, Netanyahu of Israel, we think Iran's going to cause a terrorist attack at the Olympics. Yeah. Oh, really? Well, that's amazing timing, Mr. Netanyahu. That's almost hard to believe that you'd come out and say that right about now when you need it the most. Also, if that were to happen, by the way, because it's right there in London,
right?
How much does anyone want to bet, if something like that happens, that the gold and silver physical reserves that are allegedly in special vaults underground in London will happen to automatically be so close to this terrorist attack that they're destroyed and nobody can get their gold and silver anymore? That would be the event to cause silver and gold to spike to levels that will blow your mind. The only question is, would they like to do something like that during the Olympics? After the Olympics? It's anyone's guess. Again, these guys are in charge. It's their timeline. If they get pushed back or pushed forward, they do it when they need to do it. All you and I are guys sitting on the side of a wall like a fly. Not even. We don't even get that because we'd at least get to hear what they have to say.
Oh, yeah.
We have to look like we just talked about. Look at the executive order they passed. Look at what Department of Homeland Security's passed. Look at what they're doing. And then basically put a puzzle now based off of prior events we just saw them do, and then kind of figure out, well, where is this going? And we have a pretty good guess, but I don't know if our guess will be spot on, but it doesn't matter if it's spot on. It'll be close enough to where we said we'll be able to say to everybody, we told you so, basically. We told you to prepare for these things. You should have listened, and it's here now. Have fun dealing with it.
That's right. And Mr. Jay Snips, we got about 5 minutes left before we're going to let you go. We got somebody else coming on for the last 10 minutes. I wanted to, while we're talking about the Olympics, and we said a prayer on there, actually, that, nothing happens during these Olympics, but we would not be surprised to see something happen knowing how these people work. But one thing I found very interesting was a video of yours I watched right before we went on air, and that was the austerity measures at the Olympics.
Oh, yes.
You want to tell our audience about that?
Yeah, this is fantastic. So far, this year, or this Olympics, 2012 Olympics, they've decided to make the largest medals, physical size, the largest medals, like the gold medal especially. Just, we're going to make it big and bad. This is going to be the killer medal. You want to win these.
Go ahead, folks. And since your size does matter, hear jokes right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, okay.
So they said, well, let's just take a look at the gold medal. It's supposed to be gold. So under further examination, it is approximately, I don't have it in front of me again, but approximately 94% silver and like 6% or 5% or so copper, I think, and then a whopping 1.3% actual gold. You win a gold medal, you're actually winning a large piece of silver that has a coating, a millimeter, I don't even know how thin it is, of coating of gold on the outside to make you think you've got this massive, fantastic gold medal. I mean, you mean to tell me For God's sakes, the Olympics, you can't come up with a freaking real piece of gold, full 999 fine, 24 karat gold medal.
Yeah.
What is going on? This is austerity measures at the Olympics, for God's sakes. What is it? You couldn't make this up. You couldn't write this stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, and now before in history, though, I mean, has this changed? For example, let's say 1972, the Olympics, was the gold content higher? I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
The thing that I read showed that it was. I didn't see how much it was, though.
Okay.
And it went all the way back to like the late 1800s when they first started, and it showed you the different sizes and stuff.
Wow.
I just came across a funny comment in the chat room. Somebody said give him a gold piece of paper, gold certificate. Might as well be worth the same.
Yeah. Now, well, in closing here, we got about 2.5 minutes. And again, folks, I would urge everyone to visit realistnews.net and watch the videos by this gentleman, Jay Snip 4 is the video channel on YouTube. But in the last 2.5 minutes we've got here, sir, we're going to let you have the last word in terms of what's on your most immediate radar right now. What do you see? What should we be watching right now?
Over the next few days, this Sunday is the 5th of August. The CME Group should be supposedly implementing their 35% margin hike on all commodities across the board. That should cause a bloodbath on the commodities market the following week, if they do it. But when I contacted the CME Group, they said, well, we're actually talking to the CFTC, and we may extend it another 60 to 90 days. I'm thinking if they want Obama elected again, you wouldn't dare have a bloodbath on the commodities market, which would also cause the stock market to come down too, right before the elections. I don't think they would do that. So I'm almost thinking that we're going to hear news that, they're going to postpone that 35% margin hike another 60 to 90 days. One final thing I want to mention that has nothing to do with all this is that I know the day is going to come when people who post to YouTube, conspiracy guys like us, if they want to call us that are trying to get the truth out, the day is going to come where they ban us and we're not able to get back on there and post videos. I just feel it. And I know people who have gotten banned and have to create new accounts from time to time.
I've gotten hit by GoDaddy, had to change servers, and so I know where you're coming from.
I have my own server, and I'm putting it in a data center, and I have a website. It's not ready yet. It's going to be activistvideos.com, and then I also have a couple other ones. I was thinking of one called, I can't think of the name right now, recordu.tv. It's going to be like a kind of a YouTube thing. And again, I control all of this. I'm not going to be banning people. And then the final one is mrhowto.tv, where people can post how-to videos to educate people on how to do stuff. And I'm going to actually share revenue with people who post videos.
Wow.
That's kind of a little bonus for people who are maybe need a little extra income kind of thing. But that site's not ready yet, and I'll let everybody know on my channel when I finally get it ready to go.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what. Yeah, time just flew by. I want to thank you so much for being a guest on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. Of course, this will be available via archive, and you can go to HomelandSecurityUS.com and pull down the archive for tonight's program. And we're certainly going to share it. Folks, I would urge everyone to listen to this program again because the amount of information shared tonight in this hour and 45 minutes is just phenomenal. And General, I want to thank you so much for what you do and for everything that you've done. And I want to thank you for being a guest in our program. Certainly, you're invited back again, and I do certainly hope to have you back.
Anytime.
Man, it was a pleasure.
Just let me know anytime.
All right. Well, God bless you. Take care of yourself and keep fighting the good fight.
All right, guys. Take care.
Thank you so much.
And folks, that was Joe from realistnews.net, JSnip4. That's realistnews.net, JSnip4. I would definitely urge everyone to bookmark that.
Absolutely. It was an excellent interview. Everything I expected and more. Like I said, I really like to see these people on YouTube who have such a great insight as to what is taking place as we in the world. And I don't want to say YouTube sensation, but the guy knows what he's talking about.
Oh, he's very articulate.
He is very articulate. He gets the message across, and he hits on issues that are very important to what are going on in society. We need more people like him out there fighting the good fight.
You're going to be hearing more about him. I got a feeling. He's a rising star and things.
Yeah. Now we have the last couple minutes here. We are going to bring in a friend of the show, a listener, a person in chat known as Infidel.
Infidel, 007,
Infidel
right?
007, I just brought you live on air. I'm going to post your YouTube video in the chat. The name of the YouTube video is What Are You Doing? This is the New America. It is a 56-second video where, Infidel, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Right.
I'll let you explain it. You are videotaping the police as they are talking to or apprehending somebody?
I think they were just talking to this kid. He evidently did something at Lawn Fate, and they were talking to him. And what brought it to my attention was I heard everybody else talking about it in the tent. They were like, look at those cops. Look at those cops. He's just a little kid and everything. And, like, nobody did anything. Everybody just stood there talking, watching. And I said, I'm going to go videotape. So I went over there, and I started videotaping him. And then...
Well, okay, now this is at a carnival, though, right? Or near a carnival where okay, I'm looking at a photograph.
St. Martha's Carnival in Depew, New York.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the beginning of the video that shows looks like a private residence at the in a long walkway in a tent in front of this residence, and then about 3, maybe 4 police officers. And the subject of their interest is a young boy, you said?
That's what I was told.
Okay.
I overheard and then sent 13, 14 years old.
Okay. And
that's the priest residence, I think, that you're looking at.
Yeah, this is
tent in front.
Yeah.
This is all on the grounds of that lawn fete or festival, carnival. We call them lawn fates up here in Western New York.
You guys have your own language, I'm telling you.
So you're sitting here, you're have your cell phone out. You are just documenting what is taking place. There was no violence from the cops or nothing happened. Nothing of action really happening in what you're videotaping.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, okay. The first few seconds of this, I'm thinking, what am I watching? Like, I'm thinking, okay, things are going normally. Now, you appear to be in a vehicle, I guess. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
No, I was standing on the street.
Okay.
There's like a street that goes through this property.
Okay.
Like a driveway, and I was standing on the street.
All right. So okay. So now you've got your cell phone and you are recording it. And rather than me presuppose, I'll just let you go ahead and narrate what happened because I think it's just a wow. And folks, again, you're gonna have to see this, and we'll put a link up to this video off of our website in case for those of you who are listening to this broadcast via archive. But go ahead and narrate what happens.
Well, I was taking video and. All of a sudden, this guy goes, "What are you doing?" And I turned around and I said, "I'm taping." And another guy pulls up in a pickup truck and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm taping." He goes, "Who are you?" I said, "Who are you?" He goes, I'm the carnival chairman. And I said, "Nice to meet you," or whatever. And he was like, "What are you doing?" And then all of a sudden, from behind, the police took my phone.
Not only did they take your phone, from what I understand, it looks like they snatched it right out of your hand, kind of violently.
Yeah, it wasn't a pleasant encounter. I've got to say, and it looked like the one officer that was by the tent that turned around and started walking toward you. He looked like he had a pretty big chip on his shoulder. But I have a feeling, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but again, this is a minute video, but there was probably some stuff that went on that you didn't record or weren't able to record.
Oh, yeah, they took it. And I was like screaming at him, "I want my effing phone, I want my effing phone." It's like, you can't do that. I have a Fourth Amendment right. You just can't take my phone without a warrant.
Right.
And he was like, "Yes, I can." And he's going through my phone. He's going through the phone. He's just going through the phone. It's like, are you kidding me?
Was he looking at, like phone numbers?
And what he was wearing, too.
I don't know what he was looking at, but he shouldn't have had his hands on it.
Oh, that's true. But, yeah, how do you even know they were police? Because all they had were T-shirts on that looked like with the word police on the back.
Exactly. I don't know. I think they were with Chase Security.
Oh.
You just can't take somebody's phone.
No, well, how? Okay, no.
Sorry.
No, you cannot. Well, okay, so this guy with the police on the back grabs your phone, takes it. He's going through it. Did you get his name?
Then I'm surrounded.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
So all this because you decide to videotape a peaceful interaction between a law enforcement officer and somebody that they're talking to.
Yes.
All right. So you're surrounded now.
They have your phone.
They got your phone. Now what's going on?
And you are yell.
Yeah. And then folks, let me just say this to the audience. I know this gentleman personally, and I'll tell you what, nicest guy in the world, and certainly no threat to anyone.
Right, not threatening at all.
Yeah, and a very, very peaceable man. So
and respectful to everybody, definitely including law enforcement. And as you can hear in the video, he kindly asks, how are you doing? Being very respectful.
Very, very good. So just to set the stage. So okay. So anyway, go ahead. Continue.
So I'm yelling. I want my phone. Swearing. I want my phone. I'm trying to reach over to get my phone, and there was a cop chest to chest with me, saying you're not going to get it. And in the meantime, he's still going through my phone. And then all of a sudden, the chairman of Lance comes up, and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I was taking video." And he goes, "Taking video of what?" And I said, "Taking video of the cops and that kid over there." He goes, "Oh, so you like to take videos of kids, huh?"
Oh.
We'll spin this however we want to spin this.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow. So.
Catholic Church.
Okay. Now.
Spin it.
Do we know were these sworn law enforcement officials, or were they actual just security officers?
I really don't know, but I know an oath keeper from the Cheektowaga Police Department did intervene, and I explained to him. He asked me what I was doing. I explained to him what I was doing, and I got my phone back.
Wow. So there is...
He was a uniformed officer.
Okay.
So, a uniformed oath keeper officer from a different township than you were in came and intervened on your behalf and got your phone back, correct?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man.
I mean, and in your title of the YouTube video, this is the new America. You are exactly right. There have been people who have been sentenced to prison time for videotaping police. There was somebody facing life in prison for videotaping police. And there were multiple cases of people being charged and brought up on and put on trial for videotaping police under a bogus wiretap law, and all of them really have been thrown out of court. But this is something completely different. They did not arrest you. They really assaulted you, confiscated illegally your recording device, and then went through it without any probable cause or without a warrant, like you said, violating your Fourth Amendment rights. Now,
you have any plans for any civil litigation on this at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
I was talking before the show to him, and he is in the western New York region, the Buffalo area, looking. I don't know if he said he had a lawyer or you were looking for an attorney who would take these kind of cases to see where you would stand as far as a suit.
Well, yeah, I think you've got a pretty good case here. I mean, just from what I've seen on the video. Do we even know why the police were talking to that young man?
No, I don't.
Or the security officers? Okay.
I don't.
All right. Wow. So no one would come to your aid except an oath keeper. That's the bottom line.
Yes, sir.
And That's the sad state of our country we live in right now. The law enforcement officers are getting their wages cut, their pensions are being cut. The middle class all over is being cut. We see our country turning into a third world nation as they try to restrict
the
guns.
rent-a-thugs here.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is a very common occurrence. And I want to thank you, Infidel, for sharing your video with us. I hope everybody in the chat, I'll post it, the link again. Can you spread it around on Facebook and Twitter? And the title is, What Are You Doing? This is the New America. Check that video out, share it, and let people know. You want to videotape cops, this is what might happen to you. Even though it's not even a situation warranting any kind of physical altercation, you still don't have the right.
When did this happen?
Yesterday, last night, around 8 o'clock or so.
Wow. I can't imagine how you. I know you didn't keep your cool. I mean, to the extent you stood up for yourself. I mean, that look, I would have done the same thing. Believe me, I would have done the same thing. Because
I'm standing up for everybody right now.
There you go.
They can't go around doing this no longer. I studied it for too long, Doug. I'm sick of trying to tell people, trying to explain to people what's going on. So I think actions speak louder than words, and then that's what I'm going to do. We're going to follow through, and this is going to be an issue.
Infidel, I'll tell you what, you are definitely an asset to to our cause, to the cause, to everyone's cause, and I want to thank you for standing up and doing what you did. And believe me,
don't back down.
Small feat. It's no small feat, because you could have just as easy, acquiesced and then, it just would not have. It wouldn't have been the same. But thank you for standing up for yourself and for the rights of yours and for the rights of ours too, for our rights, because this has got to stop.
Thanks, Doug.
But my friend, you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, I know this gentleman, and
he is an asset to the Hagmann Report, the Northeast Intelligence Network, and a friend. And it's unfortunate. I know he's very stressed out over this. Say some prayers, that he can get some peace of mind and not feel almost like an enemy in just being a citizen.
Yes, sir. Well, I'll tell you what, we are at the end of our program, and I want to thank you for holding on and thank you for coming on at the end of the program. I know that it was a long time for you to wait, but I appreciate you sharing that video with us, and we'll be talking to you soon. Hey, folks, tomorrow night, Steve Quayle, Greg Evenson, 9 o'clock, 9 to 12, special program, on video too, hopefully.
At least our part. Have a good night, everybody. God bless.